Good evening, all. I welcome you all on the behalf of StudyIQ IAS English. My name is Pritesh Maturkar. I extend my warmest regards to everyone who is joining me on a journey of world exploration, who is joining me on a guided personalized tour of the world physiography. And in this tour, I will be using the most potent tool in geography, that is maps. So, using maps, basically, we will try to analyze the scope of geography, the content of geography. We will use maps as the most potent tool for understanding the different places on Earth and how you have variations on our planet. So, as I said, guys, those who are joining me for the first day or those who have been joining me since we have started this lecture, today is lecture number 12. So, please treat these lectures from a utilitarian perspective. Using these lectures, guys, I tend to cover roughly 50 to 60% of your GS discourse. And using these lectures, I tend to cover some of the advanced levels concept too. And using these lectures, guys, you can basically do two things. You can use the content in these lectures directly in your prelims and your mains. And it is my personal guarantee that you will be having a coverage of roughly 15 to 20 marks in prelims and approximately 100 to 200 marks in mains. And if essay comes in your purview, then you also have a coverage of 125 marks plus. So roughly 250 to 200 marks in your mains too. Okay. So this is the utilitarian value of this session. And in this sessions, we will be going on a world tour and I will also be highlighting you the current affairs. So using current affairs, we will try to paint the global scenario which is present as of today. So like yesterday, I introduced you to the steppe region where I explained you the relevance of the Russia-Ukraine war that is happening. Okay, so we will use the same thing. We will use the same kind of approach for analyzing the world too. Okay, so I welcome you all on this journey. Please treat me as your friend, philosopher, mentor, and guide. Please be open with me. I know every one of you is an aspirant and treat me as an aspirant too. Why? Because I also learn with you, you will also learn with me. I am not the master of this discipline, but I know this discipline very well. So, in coming days, I will also enlighten myself. I will also enlighten you. What I'm master with regards to this is how you can utilize this discipline for scoring more marks in mains perspective and the prelims perspective. You have to be hungry for marks, guys. Okay. So this is how we will tend to proceed. So in a typical day's lecture, I will do 5 to 10 minutes revision of the previous day's lecture. Then I will introduce you to some of the concepts. Once we have done the concepts, then we will utilize those concepts on the world atlas and we will try to paint a picture with regards to current affairs too. Okay, so a typical day's lecture will follow like this. And as I promised you all, since beginning, I will be using an image of a location which I discussed in the previous class. So the image which you are seeing me on the digital whiteboard, okay, the multimedia interface just behind me, this is a very beautiful image of Lapland. Okay, the land northwards of 66 degrees and half. So if you can see over here, the height of the trees is very less. Okay, so this is the boundary of the tree line, and to the north of this you won't have such trees. The height of the trees is very stunted and it is permanently covered with snow. Okay, permafrost region. And if you see the sky over here, okay, this is called as twilight zone, where even though the sun has set, the sky is still lit. Why? Because the sun's rays come at an angle, they come at a slant angle. So this is called as the twilight zone. And guys, this is the home of Santa Claus. Okay, so you can just remember this picture, Lapland. You have animals like Arctic fox, you have animals like reindeer, you have polar bear who roam this Lapland, and also if you are lucky you might see Santa Claus too. Okay, so let's start our today's discussion. Before that, let me just quickly introduce myself to those of you who are joining me for the first time today. So my name is Pritesh Maturkar. I will be your primarily faculty for handling the GS part of geography and also in the futures the optionals part too. But for now, please treat this curriculum as a precursor to your prelims, as a precursor to your mains preparation. Okay, using this curriculum you will be easily able to sail through the mains part, through the prelims part. I mean to say the strategic curriculum which is required for covering the relevant issues, because UPSC guys, civil services examination is an evolving examination. Each year you will find questions which are more analytical, which are more thought provoking. Okay, so you can reach out to me on a Telegram channel called as Geography by Pritesh Maturkar. Okay, this is where I keep on sharing the relevant tidbits of geography, where I keep on sharing the detailed PDFs of the issues which I find are important, and I also share some of the useful links which you can directly utilize in your answers. You can just do a global search at Geography by Pritesh for this. Okay, if you just do a global search on your Telegram, you can easily get this channel. Okay, so join this channel, start your journey with me. Let me be your aided guide. Let me you be your philosopher and mentor, and see how we cover up all the locations, and with what great prestige, with great smile on your face, and ultimately you will fall in love with this discipline. Okay, but don't fall in immense love, otherwise you will end up coaching like me. Okay, so that's the beauty of this discipline, because geography is a discipline which you can practically see, which you can practically feel. Why? Because it's your and mine connection with the earth. Okay, it's how your and my life is affected as to what is happening on the earth per se. So let's move ahead, let's start our today's discussion. So let me just quickly do a recap of whatever we did yesterday. So yesterday I introduced you to 2 or 3 more important things. So yesterday I introduced you to the vegetation of the polar areas per se, so where we covered the mosses, the lichens, anything to the north of the Arctic Circle. And yesterday I did introduce you to the mid-latitudinal desert topography. Okay, the mid-latitudinal deserts and the mid-latitudinal what? Grasslands. So I introduce you to one of the most important location which is there as of today, the steppe region of the Ukraine, of the Kazakhstan, and of the Western Russia, or rather of the southwestern Russia. Okay, the border with Kazakhstan. Why steppe region, guys? Because steppe region is that region which provides roughly 30% of Europe's whole grain intake with regards to wheat per se. Okay, so the war which you are seeing on the front lines between Russia and Ukraine is basically the war with regards to food security. Okay, so please change your perspective. Geography will help you in changing your perspective, because it will provoke your thoughts. Okay, the more you will provoke your thoughts, the more you will contemplate, then more your perspectives will change. Okay, and civil services examination, guys, is an examination where you have to change the perspective. Okay, after the discussion of the mid-latitudinal deserts, the grasslands, I explained you the most important topic which is relevant today, which is climate change. Okay, which is climate change. And this topic I explained you on the basis of what? On the basis of global warming. On the basis of global warming. And why you are having global warming? Why do you have global warming? Why? Because the atmosphere is largely transparent to the visible spectrum. So you and me, we both are able to see each other. Why? Because the air in this space is transparent to visible spectrum. Had it been the case that the air is not transparent to the visible spectrum, so your eyes would not have got the rays of this atmosphere, and this would have been a complete blank. Okay, so as the atmosphere is largely transparent to the visible spectrum, so the incoming insolation will strike the earth's surface. And remember, the incoming insolation, okay, the incoming insolation is what? It is high energy. It is high energy short wave, whereas the outgoing radiation, or the earth's terrestrial radiation, okay, terrestrial radiation is what? Earth's radiation is less energy, but it is long wave. And this radiation is trapped By what? By the greenhouse gases and the greenhouse substances. And these greenhouse gases and substances, they together account for less than 0.1% of the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, so and these gases do what? These gases, they maintain the average ambient temperature on Earth, because of which you and me can both survive on this planet. So are greenhouse gases vital to our survival? Yes, of course, guys, they are vital to our survival. So if you get a question, or if you get a statement that whether greenhouse gases are vital to our survival, yes, of course they will be vital to our survival. Why? Because it is because of them that we have average ambient temperature being maintained on Earth. But now what is the issue? We are pumping more and more carbon in the atmosphere. So as we are pumping more and more carbon in the atmosphere, so because of this, the heat trapping in the atmosphere is increasing. Okay, so the more heat trapped, the more the planet will warm up, the more will be the global warming, and more will be the climate change. So we ended our session yesterday at this discussion, and I told you that today I will be discussing one of the most important topics, that how is climate change manifesting differently at different places, because that is very important, guys, from the current affairs perspective. So today's lecture becomes very important as to where I will discuss that how climate change actually manifests differently at different places, and after that we will change our discourse. Enough of this climate, enough of the atmosphere. We will start discussing something with regards to the surface of Earth, and with regards to the largest sphere of Earth, which is the hydrosphere. Why? Because Earth is basically a blue planet. Okay, 75% of Earth's land surface is staggering waters, so we'll have to focus on that too. And guys, whatever information I'm giving to you all is necessary for me for covering the world map. Okay, so please don't treat this information in a light way. Okay, whatever information I feel is important for covering the geographical locations, I'm giving you that information. Okay, so roughly I will be covering 50 to 60% of your GS discourse through this lectures too, but 100% of your atlas. So now whenever you will read the advanced level concepts, of course I will give you the names, and I will also introduce you to advanced concepts. So whenever you will do them, then in detail, it won't take much of time. Okay, that's my promise to you all. Okay, so just have faith in me and let's move ahead. So now I'm discussing how climate change manifests differently at different places. Okay, how climate change is manifesting is manifesting is manifesting is manifesting differently is manifesting differently at different places, at different places. How climate change is manifesting differently at different places. Okay, so for this, guys, you first need to understand what are the areas where climate is actually changing. Okay, which are those hotspots on Earth where climate is being affected the most, and how basically they all are interlinked, because Earth as a whole is an interconnected planet. Whatever happens in one region, it is bound to impact the another region. Okay, so please bear with me. Those of you who are watching with me, good evening, Sumit. Okay, I hope that you are getting whatever I'm saying in this lecture, and please be very patient in understanding this topic, because maximum coverage of your prelims, maximum coverage of your mains will be somehow linked to this topic. So how climate change manifests differently at different places. For this, the first thing we need to understand is what are the climate change hotspots? What are the climate change hotspots? Okay, what are the climate change hotspots? Okay, so if we want to consider what are the climate change hotspots, for this we need to understand what that which are the most sensitive areas on Earth. Why so, guys? Because any change in the Earth's geophysical systems, any change in the Earth's atmospheric, oceanic, and the land surface imbalance will manifest first in those areas which are highly sensitive. It's just like your body. Okay, so if you suffer a fall, which parts of your body are most susceptible? Those body parts which are weak as compared to other body parts. Okay, so let's say if you fall on your head part, so your head is basically supported by neck, and you all know if you get a light sprain in your neck, your body will suffer the worst. Okay, but if you fall on your knees, if you fall on your legs, if you fall rather on your stomach, they will absorb some of the impact. Okay, so it's just like understanding your body. The sensitive parts of your body will be affected the most if you fall. So we need to protect the most sensitive parts of our body if we are suffering a fall. So the same thing we should apply to Earth too. Climate change is manifesting the most in the climate change hotspots, and if we want to understand how we should cope up with the climate change, we should divert our attention to these areas. We should understand how the local topography is changing, how the local ecology is being affected, and we start rectifying that, we can actually reverse climate change. Okay, if we take proper steps, if these regions stabilize, we can actually start reversing climate change, because these regions are some of the most important regions for maintaining the Earth's atmospheric oceanic telecommunications. So let us now divert our attention to the most sensitive areas of Earth, or okay, or those areas where, I'm again reiterating guys, or those areas where ecological balance, is hanging is hanging on a very thin thread, Okay, so if you ask me, sir, which are these kind of areas where a slight change in the ecology will start affecting the flora and fauna of that place? So now for this, let us take help of the world atlas, let us take help of the world maps, so that you understand this very, very properly. Let me open up the Earth for you all. Okay, so, and just let me use the 2D map so that you all get it very properly. Okay, so if I'm showcasing you the climate change hotspots of the world where the climate change affects the most, so the first region which should come to your mind, or the first region which everyone should quote, is the region north of 66.5 degrees. The region north of 66.5 degrees north, and also the region of the Antarctic, Why? You will have the similar question as I'm having now. Sir, how come only these areas are being affected the most, or how come these areas is where we can see climate change manifesting the most? Why? Because guys, these areas are those areas where the climate, or where the weather is well below the freezing point. So even a slight increase in your temperatures will manifest like anything in these regions. So if I'm considering, let's say, the Arctic Circle, if I'm considering the North Pole, okay, where the average temperature in winters is less than -50 degrees Celsius, and if because of global warming now the average temperature is increasing by 15 degree, 20 degree. In Alaska, if you are having temperatures more than 0 degree, if you are having winters which are not recording any snowfall, that will manifest as climate change. So what do you mean by this, that these areas are most sensitive? We have to consider those areas where the temperatures are increasing like anything. And which areas will have temperatures increasing like anything? Predominantly the Arctic areas and the Antarctic areas. Why so? Because of a climatic feedback loop. I will explain you what is this loop in detail now. Okay, so if we divert our attention to the understanding of whatever is happening at 66.5 degrees north, So predominantly I will be focusing on three areas. The first area will be that of Alaska. Okay. Okay. Alaska is the westernmost state of USA. Okay, and Alaska was bought by USA from Russia. The gravest mistake which any country can do. So Russia basically sold Alaska to USA. The biggest mistake or the biggest blunder Russia did. Okay, so I will be seeing with regards to Alaska. The second region that I will be focusing on is the region of Greenland. Okay, because in Greenland you are having record melting of ice sheets. The third region I will be considering Lapland, and the fourth region I will be considering is the Siberian tundra. Okay, so these four regions I will be considering when I'm discussing with you all the climatic change hotspots. Okay, so now let us go region by region wise. Let us understand how climate change is manifesting differently in all these regions. Okay, so for this again I am taking the help of globe so that you all have a bird's eye perspective. We will go region by region, guys. Okay, no need to worry, no need to hurry. Please understand this at a snail pace, because if you understand this properly, then you will be pretty comfortable in analyzing everything. Okay, so now I'm considering Alaskan region. Okay, so if I consider the Alaskan region, this is the Alaskan region. Okay, now what is happening in this region, guys? Okay, so here number first, okay, you are having records being broken of temperature anomalies, of temperature anomalies, temperature anomalies. Okay, what are temperature anomalies? So let's say the average temperature of this particular latitude is, let's say, minus 10 degrees Celsius. Now you are having what? The average temperature of this latitude is increasing by roughly 20 degrees Celsius. Now the average temperature, instead of minus 10, it's now plus 10. So the difference is minus 10 plus 10, approximately 20 degrees Celsius. So you are having what? You are having positive temperature anomalies, and this record is being broken by upwards of 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, for the first time in Alaska in the last 2 years, you had the winter temperatures going approximately 22 to 25 degrees. Okay, so you have over here an entry called as Gulf of Alaska. So Gulf of Alaska recorded temperature anomaly, or it recorded a positive temperature in the excess of 30 degrees Celsius. This is very daunting, guys. Okay, and this is partially linked to the warming of these places, and it is also partially linked to the ocean currents. Okay, so ocean currents we have not yet discussed. So now just remember that you are having temperature anomalies in this region in upwards of 30 degrees. Okay, and the second thing, it is called as the feedback loop, which you can apply everywhere to the north of the Arctic Circle. Okay, it is called as feedback loop. What do you mean by feedback loop, guys? Okay, so let's understand what do you mean by feedback loop. Okay, so you have ice. Okay, increase in temperature is positive. No, Sonam, increase in temperature does not mean temperature anomaly. What is temperature anomaly? Let's say if I'm considering the temperature of one particular latitude as 10 degrees Celsius, the average temperature. Now, the average temperature of the latitude is shifting from 10 degree to, let's say, 20 degree. So now the average temperature is positive 20 degrees. So how much is the temperature anomaly? 10 degree. So when the average temperature of the latitude increases by a margin of more than 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, we record positive temperature anomaly. So please get this concept very properly. If I explain you in definition, so the temperature anomaly is the actual temperature recorded minus the average temperature of the latitude. So let's say if Alaska is recording average temperature of, let's say, 28 degrees, whereas the average temperature of that latitude in that time scale should be 2 degree. So 27 minus 2, 25 degree, that will be your temperature anomaly. Okay, so please get this concept very properly. I hope this concept is good. Okay, thank you, Sonam. Okay, what do you mean by feedback loop? Okay, so feedback loop is basically that loops which keeps on going because of global warming induced climate change. What do you mean by this? So if I'm considering a chunk of ice, okay, let's assume that I have a chunk of ice in my hand. Okay, let's assume it virtually. Okay, so I'm having a big chunk of ice in my hand. All of you must be eating ice candy, so just assume that there is ice candy. Okay, and please assume my hand surface as the earth surface. Okay, so what is this feedback loop? Okay, because of global warming the ice is starting to melt. Okay, as the ice melts the water will sweep down, it will mix with this mud and it will become tidy, it will become black, and this black water will also sweep into the ice, so the ice will in turn start turning black. And as the ice turns black, what will happen? Ice will start absorbing more heat. Why? Because as ice was white first, it was having surface reflectivity. We call it as albedo. The albedo was high, but now as the ice is turning black, its surface reflectivity is decreasing, whereas its surface absorbability is increasing. So black ice will do what? It will absorb even more heat, and as it will absorb more even heat, it will again melt. So this is the feedback loop. Once the ice starts to melt, it turns black. When it turns black, it absorbs more heat and it melts more and more. So this is the primary thing which is happening to every land northwards of the 66.5 degree. But in Alaska, in the Gulf of Alaska, it is the positive temperature anomaly in how the climate change is manifesting. So you had temperatures in Alaska reaching 27, even 31, 32 degrees Celsius, which is not good at all. Okay, and that too in the winter months, in the months of November and December. So this is very daunting situation for the earth per se. Okay, so number first, the positive temperature anomaly. This is how climate change is manifesting. And number two, the feedback loop. Okay, now let us move our discussion ahead towards the Greenland part. Okay, so Greenland is that region which is permanently covered by ice sheets, by glaciers. Okay, but in Greenland two things are happening. This is very very important, guys. Please understand, in Greenland, of course, the first thing that is happening in Greenland is feedback loop. Okay, the ice melts. Okay, because of this ice turns black, and as ice turns back it will absorb more heat. As it absorbs more heat, it will melt more. So it is also happening in Greenland. But in Greenland, climate change is manifesting in the form of, I'm again reiterating, in Greenland climate change is manifesting in the form of record rainfall. In the form of record rainfall. Okay, so you had a record rainfall in Greenland in the months of August, September, October, even in November. Okay, and that record rainfall was really record shattering. Okay, so the rainfall which you received in Greenland in the past 2 years, so that rainfall exceeded all the measurements prior to it. Prior to it means whenever the measurement of rainfall started in Greenland, if you sum up all the additions, if you sum up all the records, Greenland received more rainfall than all the additions in the past 2 years. So as you are having more and more rainfall, it will again start to do what? It will again start melting the ice. Ice melts, it will again add to the feedback loop. So you are having record rainfall in Greenland. Okay, and the third thing as to how Greenland is experiencing climate change is linked to both of two record melting of ice sheets. Record melting too. Okay, it is record melting. Okay, so Greenland has lost approximately, I'm not bluffing, guys, you will be shocked to hear this fact, that Greenland has approximately lost 3 billion tons of ice. 3 billion tons of ice in the past year itself. Okay, if all of the Greenland melts, Greenland itself can increase the global sea level temperature. Not sea level temperature, the global sea level. If entire Greenland melts, then entire Greenland single-handedly can increase the global sea levels. It can lead to a rise in the global sea levels by approximately, you know how much? By approximately 26 centimeters. Okay, that is the potential of the Greenland melting. So single-handedly, Greenland can increase the global sea levels by around 26 centimeters. That is the true potential of the Greenland melting. Okay, so this is very daunting information, guys. You need to keep this in mind, that in Greenland, how climate change is manifesting. Again, feedback loop, then record rainfall, and then lastly record melting. Okay, so I'm giving you a homework today, that please see how much ice has actually melted from Greenland and how much is the potential of Greenland to actually rise up the sea level in the coming 50 to 100 years. So please see this information very, very properly. Okay, so this is how climate change is manifesting in this part. Now let us divert our attention to the Lapland of Norway, Sweden and Denmark. Okay, so this particular area, so if I include this particular area, okay, this particular area, okay, mind you guys, UK does not come in that. Okay, let's clear off UK. Let's assume only this part of the world. Okay, this part of the world. Okay, so now how climate change is manifesting in this part per se? Again, two things. Climate change is manifesting in this part in terms of shifting agricultural patterns. Shifting what? Agricultural patterns. Shifting agricultural patterns. Okay, so the agriculture is shifting in this part. What do you mean by this? That this territory, okay, it is called as the Scandinavian Peninsula, so it's a very rugged territory. Okay, ideally this region should be a permafrost region where the land is permanently frozen, but because of global warming induced climate change, again you are having ice free summers in this region. As you are having ice free summers, so and as you are having slopes, you are having mountainous territory, you are having slopes, and you are having ice-free summers, and the average temperature of this does not exceed 25 to 27 degrees Celsius. And add to it, you do have what? You have well-drained mountainous soils in this region. Why? Because this land is pegged by numerous glaciers, by numerous groundwater sources, and as the mountain is full of slopes, as the mountain is full of well-drained mountain soils, so this part of the world is now suitable for viticulture. Viticulture is nothing but cultivation of grapes for wine. Ideally, the world's best viticulture areas are Spain, France, northern Italy, Switzerland, New Zealand. But now viticulture is shifting to Scandinavian Peninsula. So agriculture was not at all dominant, but now people, under the lure of getting more and more income, they are now shifting to viticulture in the Scandinavian Peninsula. So this is a very daunting kind of thing. Not daunting basically from local economy perspective, but from a geographical perspective. For a person like me who understands that if agricultural patterns are shifting in this part, then it is not at all good. So please understand, or please take note of this, that in the Lapland, the agricultural patterns are now changing. And number second, how this region is experiencing climate change. I already gave you the second region, or the second reason, not reason per se, the manifestation. It is having ice free summers. Okay, ice free. So guys, this is very, very, again, daunting. This is very, very precarious, and because of this, the local economy also suffers. Local economy in the sense of what? Because of ice-free summers, the reindeer population is dwindling. Because of ice-free summers, the reindeer the reindeer population, the reindeer population is decreasing in this region. Okay, and reindeer is the mainstay of the local people of this region. Why? Because reindeer is the primary source of food security in winters. You don't have any crop growing over here, so they primarily have to rely on meat. They even drink blood of reindeer, guys. Okay, I know this is very, what I can say, I'm not getting the perfect word for this, but this is very astonishing that people of this region, they do drink reindeer blood, but that is the need of that latitude. I won't say the need of the hour, but that is the need of that latitude. Okay, so people do drink reindeer blood. You must have heard the samurai of Japan. Okay, the big persons, the very fatty persons, they do sumo fighting. Okay, the big sumos of Japan and the samurais of Japan, so both of them, they also drink tortoise blood. Okay, so I don't know what's the value of it, but you have some communities in the world who even drink blood of the animals. Okay, so the people of Lapland, they do drink reindeer blood, and once every part of reindeer is utilized from food perspective, its skin is used for covering the body, for protection from the harsh winter. And you all know reindeer is also the animal of the Santa Claus vehicle. So wherever people want to migrate from one place to another place, they use reindeers as their drawing vehicle. Okay, so this is how it happens. Yes, so it's very astonishing, but yes, you have communities who drink reindeer blood too. Okay, so reindeer population is dwindling, and because of that, local economy is also suffering. Okay, so now let's move ahead to the other region. Let's consider that region now which is suffering the worst of climate change. Let us assume that region which is suffering the worst of climate change in the northern hemisphere. Okay, and this region is the Russian Siberia. Okay, this is the Siberian Arctic. This is the Siberian Arctic. This is the Siberian Arctic. Okay, now for this, guys, you need to understand 2 or 3 things. Okay, so I'm using a separate board for discussion of this. Okay, I will again come back to this, but now for this you need to understand 2 things. Okay, what are the permafrost regions? So permafrost regions are those regions which are permanently covered by ice sheets. So now if permafrost melts, if the ice sheet starts dwindling, so whatever greenhouse gases or substances are trapped beneath these ice sheets, they will come out. So as the permafrost is melting in the Siberian Arctic, it is resulting into what? It is resulting into sequestration of trapped methane underneath. I'm again reiterating. It is resulting into what? It is resulting into sequestration of trapped methane underneath. So whatever methane gas is trapped, whatever methane gas was trapped underneath the ice sheets, whatever methane gas was trapped under the ice sheets, that gas is now exploding out. Methane gas trapped underneath the ice sheets, that gas is now exploding out. So what is happening if you go to the Siberian Arctic? You once had ice sheets, now the ice sheets have dwindled, and whatever methane was trapped, that methane is now coming out with gust. So you now have big potholes in Siberia. Out of the sudden you go and you have a big pothole in the ground, indicating what? That there was once methane trapped, and all of this methane has now come out in one go. So because of this, you are having formation of potholes. You are having formation of potholes in the Siberian Arctic. In the Siberian Arctic. In the Siberian Arctic. And as the ice sheets are melting completely, as the Siberian Arctic region is melting, as the ice sheets are dwindling, so the surface absorbability of the land surface in the Siberia is increasing. It is absorbing more and more heat. More and more heat means what? The land will warm up, As the land will warm up, the air above it will warm up. As the air above warms up, it will rise up. As the air will rise up, all the water vapor in the air will condense, and it will come down as what? It will come down as rainfall. So as now you are having rainfall in this part of the world, as you are having more and more vertical convection, so the region which was actually covered by the ice sheets, I'm again reiterating, the region which was first covered by ice sheets, now the topography of the region is changing from ice sheets to grasslands. I'm again reiterating, the topography is changing from ice sheets to grassland. So now the permafrost region is getting converted into what? It is getting converted into grassland. It is getting converted into grassland. I will showcase you all of these images so that you have a working understanding of this, but all of this is now getting converted into grassland. So guys, this is very again daunting. Why? So you have local ecology changing in the Siberian Arctic. First you had permanent ice sheets, now you are having grasslands. So now just assume what it will have impact on the polar bears, how it will affect mostly to the wildlife of these regions. Arctic foxes, the polar bears, the leopard seals, they will suffer like anything because they were accustomed to living on the ice sheets. Their life was revolving around the ice sheets, but now they have to change, they have to adapt to the grassland topography. And you all know that adapting to grassland requires some different skill sets. It requires some different adaptabilities in your bodies, and these animals are not able to adapt. So increasingly the wildlife of this area is also decreasing. So the third thing, how climate change is manifesting in this part is dwindling wildlife. So wildlife is dwindling in this part. Okay. And the last thing again, how climate change manifests in this region is again record temperatures. Okay. So what do you mean by record temperatures? You need to understand from the location perspective. So if I take you all to a particular location, okay, so I'm enlarging the earth, I'm enlarging the Siberian Arctic region for you all. So if you go to this location over here, okay, so if you go to this location over here, here you have a city called as Verkhoyansk. Here you have a city called as Verkhoyansk. Okay, so this city is the northernmost most densely populated city. Okay, the population of Verkhoyansk is roughly 3,20,000. So on an average, the average temperatures of Verkhoyansk in winters range from -55 degrees Celsius to -60 degrees Celsius. So this is the average temperatures of the winters of the Verkhoyansk. And in summers, the average temperatures don't tend to exceed more than 10 degree to 11 degree. But for the first time last year, the average temperature of Verkhoyansk in summer, or the record breaking temperature which was established in Verkhoyansk, was positive 37 degrees Celsius. Was positive what? 37 degrees Celsius. So now just imagine guys, in winters you have temperature of -50 degree, in summers you have temperature of +37 degree. How much is the difference? The difference is roughly 70 degree Celsius to 80 degrees Celsius. So if you're transitioning from winters to summers, how much is the temperature changing by 70 degree to 80 degree? Just assume this, guys, that you are now sitting in a room which is having temperature of, let's say, 24-25 degrees Celsius. Just assume that the temperature of room increases by 70 degree to 80 degree. What will happen with you? So just assume what will happen with the wildlife, with the local flora and fauna of this region. So this is a very daunting scenario. This is a very sad state of affairs that is happening. And why all of this climate change is happening? Because of Western luxuries, because of the Uber lifestyle that everybody wants. I'm being very vocal with regards to this, but yes, we need to decrease our carbon footprint. Okay, so this is how climate change is manifesting globally in these areas. Now let us shift our focus to the Antarctic. Let us go towards the southern hemisphere and let us see what is happening in Antarctica now. Okay, so if I open up the map of Antarctica for you all, okay, so this is the map of Antarctica. So around Antarctica you have what? Again, you have the Antarctic Circle. How climate change is manifesting in Antarctica? Okay, again, climate change is manifesting in Antarctica via number one, feedback loop, and number two, okay, record melting of ice sheets. Record melting of ice sheets. Why this record melting? Okay, why this record melting? This record melting is because of, I'm again reiterating, this record melting is because of intensification of an ocean current around Antarctica. I'm again reiterating, guys, I know this is a little bit technical, but just try to grasp this concept for me, that there is an ocean current around Antarctica which is a circumnavigating. It flows along Antarctica in a circular path, and that ocean current is called as west wind drift. Okay, it's a circumpolar current. It flows around Antarctica. Now what is happening? This west wind drift is flowing with even more speed. As it speeds up more and more, what is happening? The cold waters are moving away from the southern hemisphere towards the tropical areas, and here the warm waters are now reaching. And as the warm waters are now reaching, it is resulting into what? It is resulting into the record melting of the Antarctic ice sheets. So cold water is being thrown away and warm waters is now reaching because of speeding up of the west wind drift. Okay, this we will do in detail when we will cover up the oceanography in the mains GS perspective, how the intensification of west wind drift is basically resulting into the melting of Antarctic. But now just remember that the west wind drift is resulting into what? It intensification is resulting into what? It is resulting into more and more of ice sheets of Antarctica melting and the cold water being thrown out from the southern polar attitudes towards the equatorial regions and the tropical regions. So this is how climate change is manifesting in and around Antarctica. And if I consider the climate change in general per se, okay, if I consider the climate change in general per se, how climate change manifests on a global scale, okay, how climate change is manifesting on a global scale per se, okay. So globally, if I consider the earth as a complete globe, okay, so climate change is manifesting in three forms. I discussed Arctic and Antarctic regions separately, but now whatever reasons I'm giving you or whatever manifestation I'm giving you, that is happening on a global scale. So on a global scale, how climate change is manifesting? Number first, it is intensifying. It is intensifying rainfall. It is intensifying rainfall patterns. It is intensifying rainfall patterns. Okay, temperature patterns. It is also intensifying the intensity of cyclones. Okay, so you will have what? You will have very heavy rainfall in a very stipulated time period. You will have record heat waves. You will have record cold waves. So this is how climate change is manifesting on a global scale outside these areas, Arctic and Antarctic. Okay, so on a global scale, if I ask you how climate change is manifesting, the first answer should be intensifying of the events. So rainfall is coming very heavy for a short stipulated period of time. Temperature are increasing like anything. You are having record setting heat waves which go and go on for 100 days. So you had the most intense heat wave up till now in South America. It happened in Argentina, and you won't believe this, guys, that heat wave roughly broke 150 records. So 150 records were broken by just one heat wave in South America. Okay, so this is how climate change is manifesting globally. The first. Number two, it is manifesting globally in the form of wildfires. Okay, for understanding wildfires, we will have to understand the local topography of European region perspective. That we will do when we'll do the Europe in detail. So it is manifesting as wildfires. It is manifesting as flash floods. It is manifesting as flash floods and persistent droughts and persistent droughts and persistent droughts. So this is how climate change is manifesting on a global scale: wildfires, flash floods, and persistent droughts. And the third way in which climate change manifests globally, and I guess that will have a very daunting impact on India too. So climate change is manifesting most importantly on the atmospheric telecommunications. It is manifesting most importantly on atmospheric telecommunications or atmospheric oceanic communications. Atmospheric oceanic communications, the most important example being El Nino and La Nina. I know that this term you must have heard somewhere, this term you must have been addressing somewhere, but this is how the climate change is manifesting most predominantly in atmospheric telecommunications. So right now we were having La Nina conditions, but this year now we are slowly migrated into El Nino conditions. Okay, so El Nino and La Nina, these are basically the atmospheric telecommunication cells of the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and also it connects with the Atlantic Ocean too in some of the other way. So if you have large scale interactions between the atmosphere and the hydrosphere, it is called as atmospheric telecommunications. And guys, I'm ending my lecture on the last note that in March this year, you had all the record being broken of the sea surface temperatures. In the months of March and April this year, the sea surface temperatures have already risen in upwards of 21-22 degrees Celsius, wherein ideally they should have not crossed 19 degrees Celsius mark. So this is how climate change manifests globally in general, outside the Arctic and Antarctic. So you need to please keep this in mind whenever we'll discuss the World Atlas. And guys, don't worry, I won't be going into details of this. Details of this will be covered in your GS discourse. For now, just bear with me that yes, climate change is manifesting globally on a different scale. Okay. So those of you who are watching now, Sonam, I have Sumit. So I hope that this session was enlightening to all of you. Henceforth, from Monday onwards, I will be shifting my focus on the lithosphere part. I will be covering all those concepts which are important for me for doing the world maps. And those of you who will watch these sessions on a later date, please make sure that you go through this 11 lectures first, and then you start your preparation with regards to the atlas and the lithosphere. Okay, so I tend to reintroduce myself again. My name is Pritesh Maturkar. Okay, you can reach out to me on Telegram by searching for me as a channel called as Geography by Pritesh Maturkar, or you can do just a global search on Telegram at Geography by Pritesh. So please join me on Telegram so that you and me can interact and we can share the relevant information. So on the behalf of StudyIQ IAS English, I call off this weekend. Have a happy weekend. Tomorrow is Sunday. We will have holiday. We'll sharply meet at the same time 5 p.m. from Monday onwards and we'll continue these sessions. I hope these sessions are enlightening to you all and that you all are getting comfortable with me. Please work hard and smart. Okay, welcome Snohom, and those who are watching, please make sure that you revise this content, and those who will watch me in a later date as per your convenience, make sure that you are summarizing the sessions so that you can utilize these sessions for revision too. Okay, thank you all. Have a good night. See you all on Monday. I sign off.